Welcome back to Wealthy Radio, right here on WEAA 88.9 FM. I'm Deborah Owens, and entrepreneurship is gaining prominence as being the pathway to financial freedom. However, small business ownership can be fraught with risk, and far too many businesses fail because of a lack of capital. And here's some statistics. According to the Small Business Administration, about 600,000 new businesses are started in the U.S. each year. And the number of startups funded by just venture capitalists was 300. So 600,000, only 300 funded. And so that means like 99.95 of businesses aren't getting funded. And so our next guest, Cheree Warrick, is the business plan speaker, and she has started a $1 billion movement to help small businesses get funding. And if you're thinking of starting or running a small business, this is your chance to learn how to get your businesses financed. And in fact, you can join in the conversation on Twitter with the hashtag that's at Deborah Owens, hashtag Wealthy Radio Chat, or post your questions on our Facebook page. We'd love to get your comments. And or, you can always go to DeborahOwens.com. And Cheree Warrick, welcome to Wealthy Radio.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure. I mean, $1 billion movement. But before we go there, I've got to ask you something. How did you end up on this journey, right, about helping small businesses get their financing?
Well, I am an entrepreneur. I've been one since about the year 2000. And in 2006, my mother started a small business called Carolyn Does QuickBooks. And 3 years into her business, she actually wanted to get a bank loan. And since I had the master's degree, she said, you write the business plan for it. Well, I had never written a business plan, outside of school for any purpose except for, just an assignment. So I started doing some research in terms of what is the bank looking for and how do you get the bank to actually say yes? And what do I need to have in that business plan to get that underwriter excited? And the information was really hard for me to find. It wasn't in a nice book or anything like that, but I did the best that I could. I pulled some resources together. I wrote the first draft of a plan, and I went to a mentor of mine who had about 40 years' experience. He gave me a couple of tweaks, and the bank president said it was one of the best business plans he had ever read. So After that, I just became fascinated with why some entrepreneurs receive yeses over and over and over again, and others receive no. And I have cracked the code, and it's a part of a book that I wrote called Creating Business Plans That Actually Get Financed, because I'm an entrepreneur, and I just wanted to share this message with other entrepreneurs that were out there.
Oh, I love it. Crack the code. What do the people that get funded know that the people that don't know, right? Or don't know. That's exactly right. So I want to start with the basics, though. Let's talk about some of the common mistakes. What are some of the things that people just omit from their business plans that's a critical component of getting your business plan funded? Okay.
We definitely have what I call myths in terms of capital. But one thing that you mentioned in your intro that I wanted to address was that 300 businesses were funded by venture capitalists last year.
Right.
And while that's true, did you know that $228 billion was given to small businesses last year between banks, angel investors, and venture capitalists? That's $228 billion. So the number one thing that people believe is that there's no money out there, and that's not true. The question becomes, and I'm going to be very blunt here, why are you, Mr. or Miss Entrepreneur, not receiving your fair share? So with that, I'll talk about some of the things that people omit. Number one is they cannot succinctly tell the bank or the angel investor or the venture capitalist in 60 seconds why that person should sit down with them and have a meeting with them to discuss their entire business plan. They don't have that easy to understand 60-second elevator pitch in terms of what the investors are looking for.
Well, I know there are a lot of Shark Tank probably watchers. I'm certainly a fan of Shark Tank as well. And, one of the things that's clear is in that first 30 seconds, you've got to be able to convey the value proposition, right? And then you have to be able to tell how you're going to make money. And for many people, I'll be honest with you, Cheree, that's the difficult part. It's something about that number thing and being able to take an idea and then forecast it. Now, certainly you're not going to know that all of those things that you say are going to happen, but you should be able to go through a process of which you can show what you're going to do and how you're going to be profitable. So my question to you is, what's a kind of easy way, an easy method or model of just taking that one aspect of the business plan and being able to do it in an easy way?
I've got 2 words for you, Deborah. It's past success. So the number one thing that people don't realize is that true startup companies, if you have not made a sale of your product or service at all, are really, I would pretty much say, close to never funded.
Okay.
So the first thing that you have to do is make some sales. Okay. So if you have a service business, if you have a product business and you are able to create a prototype and sell the prototype and get people using it, that gets investors excited, because what you've been able to do is prove that you have something that you can sell and that the marketplace truly wants. Then you're able to forecast, Mr. or Miss Investor, with your $300,000, now we will be able to advertise to, 100,000 people who would be great prospects for this specific service. And we know from past experience how to attract those prospects, how to convert them, and how to retain them as customers and even get them coming back over and over again.
This is great advice. So what you're saying, proof of concept, that just coming up with some kind of idea, putting it on paper, and not being able to show an actually customer or a market that is that has shown they will put out their money for it, that the likelihood of you getting funding without that is, kind of slim to none.
It's pretty much slim to none. And I would go as far as saying none, but, there's always that 1 in a billion chance that somebody will do it.
Well, I guess the other point you're making is, in terms of past success, is that if you can prove that you took something else similar or another idea and you kind of hit it out of the park and were very profitable, you might have something new, but because you've already proven that you can bring something to market and make it a success, that might be the one idea that gets funded simply because you have already had a track record of success.
Absolutely. A mentor of mine actually has raised money for 2 businesses and sold those 2 businesses, and the angel investor said, whatever business you start next, we're in. It doesn't matter what it is. So money follows great leadership, and money follows great teams. And, Deborah, the interesting thing is that great ideas are turned down every day because of either an inexperienced leader or an unorganized team. So you as an entrepreneur, if you're going after capital, the team is actually more important than the idea itself.
That's great insight. Great insight.
And a lot of people don't realize that. When I talk about investors, I'm talking about seasoned people that look at 40, 50, 100, 200 deals a year and decide to put their money into 2 or 3 of them.
You know what? I want to talk about that as well. It's just so people understand the options. I mean, you mentioned 3 different. You mentioned angel investor, venture capital, traditional financing, and there's some other ways to finance your business. But I want to invite our listeners in on the conversation. Perhaps you have an existing business and you need capital, and you're trying to figure out, what is a strategy for you. Our guest this evening is Cheree Warrick. She is author of Creating Business Plans that actually get financed. We'd love to hear from you. The number to call, 410-319-8888. That's 410-319-8888. Or perhaps you were thinking, wow, I've got this idea. If I could get funding, and you heard what she said. She was like past success. So maybe you need a little coaching around what you need to do to be able to prove that, to have proof of performance or past success. We'd love to hear from you, 410-319-8888. We're talking square biz, but we're talking real biz this evening, and that is how someone can show you the money, but you've got to have the right stuff in order for that to happen. Again, the phone lines are open, 410-319-8888. We are going to go right to the phone lines. By the way, I also want to encourage you to go to the social media platform as well, that you can go to Twitter at Deborah Owens, and just use the hashtag Wealthy Chat and join in the conversation. Or you can go to the Deborah Owens page on Facebook and also post your question there. Again, phone lines are open, 410-319-8888. Let's go to, is it Naja?
It's Naja from the land of Kush.
Hi, Naja. A question or a comment for our guest this evening?
Hi. Yeah, the question is, we would like to expand. What do you recommend we do in terms of the business plan to get that expansion money? We get people all the time that say they want to put money up for this or that, but what is the right way to go about an expansion?
Okay. Well, first of all, congratulations on, it sounds like you have a successful business.
Oh, it's a
far.
Fabulous vegetarian food. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it.
Well, number one thing I would say is be careful who you take money from, because it is just like getting married to somebody. It's easy to get married. It's hard to get divorced. Okay? So that is number one. Number two, in terms of expansion, Deborah, you had mentioned the difference between banks, angel investors, and VCs.
Yes.
And I'm going to give it to you in a very simple way of understanding, and this should help you, Naja. If you have continuous cash flow and you are able to pay your, retail space, payroll, all of your business expenses, plus your personal expenses, plus, if you have a child and the child decides that they need shoes for football and you can pay for that and pay the bank back, then you should consider going for a bank loan, because it is cheaper financing. Now, with a bank loan, you'll also need credit and you'll need collateral. So if you don't have those three things, then you'll want to get an angel investor. An angel investor, you don't necessarily have to pay back every month. It depends on how you decide to set up the deal. And then venture capitalists are looking for businesses that are going to grow to $1 billion or more. So if that's not your type of business, VCs don't put money into you. So that's a very easy way of figuring out which type of investment or bank financing you should go after. In terms of expansion, if you don't mind, Deborah, I'd like to give people the 6 parts to an investable business plan.
Sure.
Okay. So part number one is, and you want to write this down, Naja, you've got to tell...
I'm going to get my pen.
Okay. Excellent.
Part one is you need to explain the market opportunity and how many people are potential prospects, okay? And with a local business, this is something that people make a mistake on. They typically give national statistics. You want to give local statistics if you're a local business.
Okay.
Part two is your customer acquisition and retention plan. So how are you going to attract prospects? How are you going to convert them? How are you going to get them coming back over and over again?
Okay.
Part three is your team. And your team includes anybody that's doing marketing and sales for you, anybody that's operating your vegetable store for you, and people like your CPA, your attorney, that your payroll provider, anybody that's taking care of the back end for you. Okay. Part four is just your competitive analysis. So you want to say what your competition is. and what their strengths and weaknesses are and what your strengths and weaknesses are. The fifth component is your financial forecast. So you want to say, for the next 5 years, this is what we expect our revenues and our expenses to be. And again, the bank is looking to make sure that at the end of the day, you have enough money to pay them when it's all said and done. All of your monthly expenses are paid for.
Okay.
And then part 6, if you decide to go after angel investment, then you're going to need to tell those angel investors how you're going to pay them back. And I'll give you one example. Let's say that you don't have good collateral right now. You don't have enough collateral, but in 3 years you will. You can say to an angel investor that in 3 years I will be able to get a bank loan and I will be able to pay you back from that bank loan. And here are the 3 bankers that I've spoken with, and they see X amount of plans every year, and they told me that if I can get my collateral to X amount, that they would be able to fund the bank loan. Then all of a sudden your angel investors feel comfortable that you have a way of getting them their money back. So I'd love to be able to go into more, but I know that we have other people that have questions. But, getting my book, and I'm not plugging it just, because it actually has a lot of the hows in here, how to prove these things to the banks or to the angel investors.
What's that book again?
It's called Creating Business Plans That Actually Get Financed, and it's on Amazon, it's on Kindle, and it's also on my website, businessplanspeaker.com.